today's Chalk Talk episode, we're going to talk about the differences between play recognition and awareness. I know there's a lot of theories and ideas behind what these two things do within the game and how they affect each individual position, and we're going to take a look at that here. So first thing we're going to look at here is going to be player recognition. So I'm in our CFM here, and I've got one of my cornerbacks here pulled up. So here you'll see off to the right there, play recognition, where it says, to better read the offense's plays, important to avoid getting faked out. For the most part, that's true. It's kind of a generalized statement of what the rating does. But there's actually a little bit more to it than just kind of generalizing it into that kind of summary. So we're going to take a look here, play recognition, because it actually doesn't really affect a whole lot more than just the quote-unquote getting faked out part, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So play recognition, big things that it's going to look at are going to be getting faked out on triple options, play action passes, halfback draws, and then how quickly a defender reads his assignment. Meaning, I'll give you an example, a linebacker who's man-to-man on a running back. The play ends up being a pass play, the running back stays in the block. The higher the play recognition, the quicker that linebacker is going to see his man blocking, and he's immediately going to go after the quarterback, because he doesn't have a man-to-man assignment anymore. He doesn't have an assignment other than going after the quarterback at that point. So that's one way. It's going to also determine, obviously, like we just talked about, the effectiveness of your play action fakes. And it really comes down to kind of two things with play action. That kind of delay time between the defender seeing the play action and then realizing what the play is, knowing that it actually is a play action pass. So the higher the play recognition, the lower that time span is between when the player recognizes what's going on in front of them. It also is actually used in conjunction with awareness to determine how quickly they recognize the option plays. And what that means is, what they're doing, if the offense is running a triple option, and the higher your play recognition in conjunction with the higher your awareness is, those two things combined will determine how effective your defender is at basically running his assignment. So if he's assigned to the pitch man, he's going to go after the pitch man. He's not going to break off onto the quarterback, because it's not his role. It's not what he's supposed to do. So it's going to help with that. Obviously, like we talked about the screen pass, it's going to determine specifically for your linemen how quickly they recognize that the offensive line are vacating the line of scrimmage and running over to get in front of the halfback. So play recognition will help identify that. It's also going to help identify flea flickers. So higher their play recognition, the easier your corners and your safeties are going to be at recognizing that the halfback's actually not going to run the ball and their assignment is going deep. It's also, as far as coverage goes for your secondary, play recognition is going to determine how quickly your secondary breaks off of man coverage. So say like you have a corner is covering a guy on a deep post, but the offense actually completes a pass, say to like a short in route. The higher the play recognition, the quicker that those other defenders who are in man coverage recognize who has the ball and then starts their angle pursuits. Other than that, that's pretty much it. It is virtually all defense. Offense doesn't really use play recognition at all. So that's really it when it comes to play recognition. Now, awareness that's kind of a whole other animal. Awareness doesn't necessarily do anything on its own. It is actually it's used in combination with virtually every other position-specific attribute that's available, with the exception of user quarterbacks. That doesn't necessarily do much of anything for them, at least according to the developers. Granted, there are still some who believe that it does have a little bit to do with QBs, but according to the information that we have, it doesn't. It's just kind of one of those things that's there. It's almost wasting experience points on your quarterback in your CFM if you're putting them into his awareness. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's just kind of go down the list here. So with awareness, it's used, like I said, in every single position. So I'll give you an example here. In special teams, it's actually used in a couple different areas with special teams, specifically in catching either the punt or the kickoff. So I know a lot of you guys have probably either playing a league currently, or like in our league, we ban line drive punts. And the reason why is because I'm sure you've all seen the line drive punt hit your return man dead square in the face mask. Well, the reason that is what it's doing is it's using awareness combined with agility and your catching rating to determine how fluid your return man is at really catching the kicks. So if you go and you put in a guy, say who's got 98 speed, because you want to take advantage of that Dante Hall type of player, but they got really low awareness and catch ratings, but their agility is pretty high because of their speed, you may have some issues every now and then of fumbling the football, whether that's if you try to move the stick just slightly too early, trying to catch the ball on the run, or like I said, those line drive kicks that get kicked right at your head. So I just kind of something to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to some of your main positions, obviously, awareness is really big within the offensive line, and the reason why is it's actually used in conjunction with agility, and then either your pass blocking or run blocking against the defensive agility. That's then combined with weight, awareness, and block shedding to basically determine who wins your one-on-one matchups on every single play. So a lot of people would think that it's going to determine, say a left tackle versus an edge rusher, that it all comes down to just awareness and then whatever specific play blocking it is, whether it's pass or run, down to then the defender's either power moves or block shed or finesse moves. It's a little bit more complicated than that, where awareness is thrown in along with agility and, like I said, weight, which a lot of people would have never have guessed that weight actually does factor into the algorithm, but it does. It's also going to be used in conjunction with a lot of your receivers. Before I get into receivers, let me also step back to linemen. It is also going to be used in conjunction with your penalty trait to determine the frequency of holdings, clippings, and your false starts. So you could have an offensive lineman with the regular development trait, we'll say the discipline penalty trait, and I'll go to one of the linemen here. Let's see, Chance Warmack here. So Chance Warmack, he's balanced pretty good. Now obviously the next step up would be discipline, and that's ideal for your linemen. But if you had a balanced penalty trait, but then you go to your awareness, and your awareness is really low, like in the 60s or 50s, like if it's a rookie or a one-year player, that particular player is going to have some trouble not getting penalties called on them. And the reason why is what it does is when the lower those numbers are, the more frequently you're going to see those animations that are going to cause the penalties. Because we know that the penalty slider doesn't necessarily affect how often the penalty is called, it determines how often the animation takes place. And it's all based upon your awareness and your penalty trait. So back to then wide receivers. So with wide receivers, it's a couple of different things. So the obvious one would be how well they run block. Definitely is going to be used in conjunction with that. It's going to be used in conjunction with your option routes. So like the route where the receiver has the choice of doing a curl, post, or fade route. The higher your awareness is with that particular receiver, the more likely you're going to have a favorable outcome of them reading the defense properly and getting open. Now we know that it's not going to happen all the time because there's a lot of variables in there, but what determines to the receiver of what route they run really comes down to their awareness. It also is going to determine with their catching traits how the computer AI chooses which catch of the three to use. So if you're in a no switch type league, this can be very, very important because if you have too low awareness, you may have possession catches when you want to have a run after catch, or your receiver tries to do a rat catch and then gets leveled and drops the ball when he really should have just done a possession catch to drop to the ground to secure the ball, get the first down, move on to the next play. So kind of something that's big for the no switch community there. On the defensive side, obviously, we look at awareness as, at least for me, for my linebackers especially, because I like to have linebackers who put themselves in a good position each play. So the main thing with awareness is when you have a linebacker with high awareness, really don't have to worry about them getting out of position. They're when they drop back, they get good depth if you have them set to go, say, like on a standard cover 2 zone in the middle. Linebacker has got that deep middle. Now, if you got high awareness with that linebacker, he's going to get back there because he's more likely to play his assignment properly. Same thing if you're using playing underneath or playing over top. The guys who have higher awareness, when you're using those types of settings, they are going to be more likely to defend those particular passes. So just kind of something to keep in mind there. Even in the running game, awareness is pretty important because it then, like I said, with defensive linemen, it ties back into the weight, the awareness, the block shedding, and all of that to get around your your offensive lineman and be able to make that play. When it comes to, we talked earlier, doesn't necessarily affect user quarterbacks, but when it comes to the AI quarterbacks and then simulation purposes, awareness can be a factor because awareness, when it comes to the quarterbacks, it determines, for an AI quarterback, I should say, whether or not they should do a lob pass, a pass with a little bit of arc on it, or a bullet pass. And we all know, if you choose the wrong pass on that, it really can make or break your drive. it's also going to determine how well the quarterback runs the option plays, as well as both, I should say both in the running game and the passing game, the option routes as well as the option runs, whether that be triple option, shovel pass, any of those types of concepts. So there are some differences between the two. Really, the best thing I can say is with awareness, it covers so much that I really think that for your starters and your main players, you really want, at key positions especially, like cornerback, middle linebacker on defense, and then wide receiver, and then your offensive line on offense. Those areas are really affected the most when it comes to awareness, because awareness is tied to more of those specific attributes than what it is tied to any of the other positions. Like awareness really isn't all that much into like running backs, and only a little bit into the defensive line. So if you're trying to boost your secondary, your linebacking core, your receivers and your offensive line, one of the best places to start is awareness, and then into the specific traits for the positions themselves. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into impact block right away, just because it costs so much, where awareness, Chance Warmack in our 7th season has 95 awareness, and it only costs 806 experience points. It's kind of weird when then you look at the specific attributes for the position. There are 3 times that amount. So awareness is one of the easy ways, which people call the inflated overall, but I don't really think it's all that inflated. I think awareness is probably one of the most important attributes you're going to find within the game, especially compared to play recognition. I think that awareness can definitely do a lot more for you compared to play rec. But then it also comes down to the type of people that you play as well. If you're playing against those guys who can run the ball very well and utilize the play action efficiently, that's where the play recognition is really going to help you. But kind of in a general sense, I would definitely say awareness is the way to go. Stay tuned to the network here, because each week we're going to go over a couple of different attributes all the way up until Madden 17, so that way we can, not only for the Gridiron Football League, we can kind of boost our knowledge around how the game works, but then also for any of our viewers that are interested in potentially joining or just want to follow kind of along with the league itself. We'll be doing these, like I said, every week. So appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.